of trust and I guess the proliferation of the number of players in the banking system that aren't necessarily banks. There's also, as you know, a big movement to sort of create different modes of currency, different modes of payment here, particularly when it comes to crypto, which of course has had its own issues over the last year. We still have not gotten the formal regulation. I know that's not necessarily on your shoulders, so you should maybe go talk to Gary and a couple other people to see where they stand. But is there a solution, I guess, to the problem that I feel like crypto itself kind of created?
Yeah. So in my travels over the past year or so, and I talked to financial institutions, technology firms, other regulators globally. Whenever this comes up, something I have really, it's really emerged. There seems to be more and more of a divide between crypto on the one hand and tokenization of real world assets and liabilities on the other hand. What do I mean by that? Well, with crypto, that's the usual stuff that is reported in the press, and it's what basically shot up and then crashed. That's the crypto world. It's retail focused, largely, and it tends to be driven by the hope for speculative gain. That seems to be the main kind of fuel and interest in crypto, is that maybe I can make some money by investing in X, Y, or Z, a particular coin. It still remains replete with fraud, scams, and hacks. And some of the largest players remain unregulated. Crypto. Tokenization. What is tokenization about? Tokenization is focused on solving an actual problem, and that problem is settlement. Right? This is boring back office stuff, but it's super, super important. Every time you buy a security, every time you transfer money, there's a bunch of actions that happen in the background with regards to settling that transaction. And it seems invisible, but to those in the know, it involves a bunch of different players with a bunch of different handoffs. There's risks, there's frictions, there's fees. Tokenization holds the promise to collapse that and to simplify it if it's done right. And so when I talk to folks, there's increasing interest in tokenization because it solves a problem, and less interest on crypto. It's just like crypto is just, there's just so many problems with it. It's hard to comply with BSA and other laws. Whereas tokenization, if done right, you can really, that holds a lot of promise. The OCC, we're hosting a conference, a symposium in February on tokenization, where it's really going to be focused on legal rights, legal foundations, risk management foundations. Like, we want to establish, if you have good foundations, then that can grow and you get some really good responsible innovation out of it.
You mentioned the Bank Secrecy Act, and obviously it goes into this whole idea of know your customer here. I thought, if you believe the crypto faithful, or I should probably say more the blockchain faithful, the blockchain was supposed to address a lot of those issues. The idea was that it was a public ledger. There was some traceability here. What are the flaws there that you think need to be addressed through more regulation?
Sure. So at the risk of, this audience will get this. So with the blockchain, there's the public ledger. You get the wallet address. You don't know who that is. That's the fundamental problem. And there are all sorts of techniques to try to intuit or guess as to which wallet address belongs to whom. In some cases, you can make that transparent. But that's a fundamental challenge with the publicly permissioned blockchains. A lot of the tokenization efforts that I've seen are private. And in those private environments, you know exactly who you're dealing with. And you can apply all the KYC. So again, I think the reason why there's interest in tokenization is starting to take off, because it's a very clear problem for which you can try to provide solutions. And the solutions may or may not involve a blockchain. A lot of these solutions don't involve a distributed ledger in the way people understand it. It uses different techniques. It's kind of, we're technology agnostic, solve the problem, do it safe, sound, and fair. I think in the crypto space, there still continues to be we have this tool, we want to do stuff with this tool, versus what's the problem that they're trying to solve.
Would tokenization, though, still require banks to act as an intermediary? Would it still require, I guess, some degree of counterparty risk?
It depends. It depends on how they design it. And again, we don't have a strong view other than that development be done in a safe, sound, and fair manner, and we have some line of sight into that. That's our primary interest.
I've heard one of the criticisms towards regulators on this issue is the idea that know your customer should be different from know your transaction. And there have been a lot of folks in that space who've said that you can identify the transaction, have that transparency on the on that side, while still, I guess, providing them some degree of anonymity, which is what some of those folks want.
Yeah, so I think there are some interesting efforts in this KYC space, and I think that it's an area where some innovation in terms of being able to achieve the policy objective, which is, why do we want to know their customers? Because we want to make sure we've got mechanisms to prevent illicit finance, terrorist financing. That's a really important goal. It's a law. It has criminal liability with it, so we don't want to mess around with that. We have to achieve that. Are there other ways of achieving it using some of the new techniques that are out there? We're open, right? We're open to understanding and exploring those, but not at the cost of not meeting that objective.
All right, Michael, this was a great conversation. I think we have to leave it there. Our thanks there to
Is the name of the game.